not the last one in Pontypridd. What I will commit all of you to is the next one that the Joint Trade Unions call in Pontypridd, in Pontypridd, we will have to find a bigger venue. Okay? We will build and build. This is not a short campaign. We will be campaigning about cuts in public services right up until the next general election. And that is a commitment that Unison makes, and it is a personal commitment that I make to you all today. We're going to keep this brief, all right? A number of people have said, you know, they need to be leaving. And I do apologise, all right? We're not going to be taking questions and answers, all right? I have some speakers. I do make a commitment, and there is a Joint Trade Union campaign group, Wales Against the Cuts, okay, that meets in our Unison office, and different union representatives. We will be sending out more information for you to come along to that campaign. I'm going to introduce some people to you who are going to speak today. Dominic Macaskill, Unison's head of local government in Wales. Dominic McFadden, PCS National Executive, who's come down to speak to us today. And I have Mick Antonew, the AM candidate for Pontypridd. Can I ask Dominic Macaskill to come up and say a few words, and please listen. And again, we're not going to be able to take questions and answers, alright? Cheers.
Thank you, Peter. It's a privilege to be here and being asked to address this rally, to have close connections with this area, having been an employee of Pontypridd and being an activist with the Unison branch, and being a local resident who relies on the valuable services that this council provides to the community. So, on behalf of Unison Wales, the largest trade union in Wales, organising over 100,000 workers, I proudly salute you, with the exception of the big pig at the end of the march. Just to put it on record straight, Unison is in favour of a yes vote on March the 3rd. And if it wasn't for the differing way that the cuts have been administered in Wales, we would be facing even more severe and draconian cuts here in Wales. And so we need to increase our control in Wales, not decrease it. In the short time I'm here, I wish to make 3 simple points. Number 1, we are not to blame for this global crisis of capitalism, which we are now being asked to pay through our higher taxes, through our losing our jobs, through cuts in our pensions, through cuts in benefits, and through the services that our communities rely on. 2, there is an alternative to the slash and burn policies of this reactionary public school millionaire elite that runs this country. 3, we will need the maximum unity of organisation and purpose to mobilise the previously silent majority to demand policies in the interests of working people and not in the interests of bankers and big business. So, firstly, the big point, we are not to blame. This is a crisis not of our making. The crisis was created, and if there is no change, will be repeated because of unregulated economies being run in the interests of minority wealthy elites rather than the interests of labouring class majority, who create the country's wealth and who provide the infrastructure and the fabric of our society. It's because of bankers and financial speculators' greed, trading in toxic debt, addicted to million-pound bonuses, because of big business being run for maximum short-term profits rather than sustainable growth. The government's response to act as if we are to blame. Nationalising the banks, yes, but getting us to pay for this debt through higher taxes, cuts in pay, cuts in our jobs, etc. Whilst the bankers go back to their million-pound bonuses over £6 billion for British bankers this year. I call this socialism for the rich and failed capitalism for the poor. Secondly, don't believe the big business owned mass media. There is an alternative. There is another way. The government could pursue policies for the masses and not the millionaires, regulate the banks and financial speculators, introduce a Robin Hood tax that would raise up to 30 billion a year, end tax avoidance and tax evasion, close down the offshore tax havens that would raise up to 130 billion pounds a year. Tax the rich, a novel idea. 50% tax rate on income over £100,000. Raise up to 5 billion a year. Scrap Trident, save up to 80 billion over its lifetime. Pursue policies for jobs and green growth. That's the deficit sorted in 1 year, and our welfare state is left intact. There are many more such policies, all with one thing in common. They take on and challenge the vested interests of this public-schooled millionaire elite that currently control the commanding heights of our economy. That is why these alternative policies will not be implemented through the force of argument, but will only be realised through the argument of force. The force of people united in their workplaces and communities, united to force the government to change, or to force a change of government. This takes me nicely onto my third point, the need for unity. Unity of public sector workers with private sector workers, with the people who use public services and the communities as a whole that benefit from these jobs and services. In particular, the unity of our political representatives in demonstrating leadership by opposing these cuts. That's why I'm pleased to see Mick Antoniou, our Labour AM, on the platform with me today, who travelled at 5:30 this morning all the way down from Llandudno. But what about our councillors? Are they opposing the condemned cuts? No. Hands up, any councillors in this room? Apparently we can expect no such leadership engagement from Labour politicians in the cabinet that run RCT. A Labour cabinet that is intent on undermining the campaign against the real condemned enemy by declaring war on its own workforce. Trade unions and attempts to steamroller through draconian reductions in pay and terms and conditions. A Labour cabinet that is overseeing real-term reductions for over 500 workers amounting between 10 and 46% of their take-home pay. Surprise! The chief executive on £142,000 a year is not one of them. Instead, the victims are low-paid, predominantly women workers, social care workers, lifeline operators, cleaners, kitchen assistants, teaching assistants, receptionists. Dedicated, low-paid workers being forced to subsidise our valuable public services so that Labour Council can set a low council tax with their sights set on next year's council elections. Not negotiating with the unions and cutting pay and conditions in order to keep council tax low to get re-elected. A Tory tactic, if ever I heard one or seen one. Perhaps we should ignore the Labour name. Because if it waddles like a duck, has feathers and quacks, then in all likelihood it is a duck. By their Tory actions we will know them. And the Labour cabinet forgets one important thing. Workers are citizens of RCT as well, and they will punish Labour in the ballot box if the cabinet continues to wage war against workers and citizens. Hold on a sec. So Russell Robert believes there is little to fear from you. because he told me that very few people have contacted him to complain. And so you can't be that unhappy. After today, perhaps he should be concerned. And more so, if all of you turn up at the full council meeting on Wednesday the 23rd to join in the joint trade union lobby, and if the council fails to listen, you all vote for industrial action to get them back around again. Let me focus again on the real enemy. So not allowing us to be distracted by this renegade Labour Council. Cameron and Clegg talk about the big society as if it's something new. This here is the big society. People standing up in defence of the original big society, created after the Second World War, better known as the welfare state. The original big society at every opportunity. Here today in Pontypridd, in Cardiff on Saturday the 5th of March, and most importantly in London on the 26th of March. Sending a message loud and clear. This is not a crisis of our making. There is an alternative to the condemned slash and burn policies, and we will unite to change government policy or to change the government.
Thank you, Dominic. I don't think there's one person in this room who would disagree with anything you were saying. And we must take the opportunity to remember that there are two general issues here, okay? The overall attack by a UK government that is absolutely determined to break down all public services, okay? Unless they can make a profit for those who are already rich in this country. And then what is happening at the local level in RCT Council.